presets are trash. They suck.
You can't use presets.
Nah, hell
You're not
no.
a real producer if you don't use presets.
Have you ever noticed that though? Like presets that come with the synthesizer actually do suck.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yes.
Like it baffles me. Why do you think that is?
I think it's also a time thing because, so for example, I was even reading this thing recently, and there's some presets, for example, in, God, it hurts to say this, but in Citrus and in Toxic Biohazard of FL, they're it's not that they really, I guess some of them suck, yes, but they're also very dated, and that's a big thing as well. But then I think people judge the presets that come with the synth for the synth. You're like, oh, this synth sucks because it has these old sounding presets or they're kind of lame, but even some presets and synth specs in the 80s that we all revere aren't that good. Some of the DX7 ones aren't very good. If you listen to them now.
I just don't understand. So, I mean, this is not a knock against, preset designers or anything like that. And, we're partially kidding, right? Like presets are not trash. They don't suck. But it's just really interesting to me that when you load up a synthesizer and most of these stock presets, you're like, I couldn't use that. That's not that, I think it's, and it's not even like, some of them are nice little tech demos. I understand why they're there. And, it'd be good for somebody who doesn't know anything about sound design to study what those presets are doing. I was
going to say that one too. Yep.
Yep. But I don't think that like most of them are usable. And even like like I'm talking like the presets in Serum are not that great, right? And that's a classic synthesizer, right? The presets in Pigments that came with Pigments 5 were not that great. I tried to look through some of the presets to kind of look around, see what's there. I was like, nah, I couldn't use this. I couldn't use that, right? So it's just kind of like a matter of taste, I guess. And I guess it's because we are sound designers that we think that way. However, like I said, you can use them to study them, to see what the actual synthesizer can do, and maybe that's what they're there for.
That is a good point. I do that a lot of the times too. Sometimes I even get packs. I'm like, I want to see how this was made, right? Kind of just looking in the kitchen, seeing how much salt they used, how much paprika, a little bit of oregano on the top. You know what I mean? That's how I kind of see it. But I think people, like, that meme where there's like this hump kind of thing, and there's like the guy that's like really stupid on one side, and there's the guy that's really smart on the other side, and they both kind of say the same thing, and there's the dude in the middle that says like the opposite of that thing, and that's what it kind of reminds me of, right? The guy in the middle is like, presets are fucking trash, don't ever use them, you're not real, like, and the people in the beginning are like, I don't know what to do, so they find a sound, and they put it there, they can start learning how to tweak it, and they can make a song and move forward from that. And the people at the end of the spectrum are like, maybe I want to save some time, because there's times where people are producing music in a studio with an artist and they can't sit there and say, okay, let me put some unison on this. Let me put a quarter delay on here. Let's tweak this. Like, they don't have time to do that. So they also use presets. A lot of our favorite artists use presets as well. And no one at the end of the day is going to be like, you know what? This song was good until I heard that this was like, I don't know, bass 5 from this obscure pack from some guy on the internet that sold it to you. Like, they're like, what? Who thinks that way? I've never thought that.
Nobody thinks that way. No. So if we started off this with presets are trash, what do you do instead of using presets? Right? Like, what's the opposite?
If you're a beginner or like intermediate or beginner?
I'd say anybody, like, because, say, for example, like you're somebody who's just like, I want to make some music, right? I've got this great synthesizer. I want to make some music. Do I go out and buy presets from somebody who I trust, like Signs of Life or John Audio? Or do I just like, use the presets that I have in my thing? Do I start from scratch with sound design? Where's the starting point for someone who's just, trying to get going?
I think I would say that the starting point should also have in mind where you want to end up at, right? Like when you get in your car, you have an idea of where you want to end up. So knowing that, let's say you're like, okay, I want to make some trance music. I want to make some, some acid techno, whatever it is. Maybe you can look at some of those packs and think, maybe this could be some inspiration. Maybe I can load up one of these leads and be like, oh, holy crap, this synth can do that. Interesting. And then maybe like build a song around that, because I think people get in the idea that use this preset for the lead, that for the bass, and that for the drums, and that's this and this and that. And then at some point, it's kind of like this inorganic kind of hodgepodge of something, and it kind of doesn't really have a cohesive feel to it, because the reverbs might be different. There might be some weird different effects on there that kind of clash on certain things. So I kind of like approaching it as saying, like, let me look at this lead. Let me build a song around the lead. Let me build a song around the bass, maybe around a pad or something like that, and kind of introduce things and kind of learn from them. And then if you like this lead, what could be a bass that goes with it? So look at the bass that come with those packs and say, okay, this is close, but let's kind of just steer it more into the direction that I would want to be going.
Yeah, using contrasting different elements, right? You're saying just like,
absolutely.
Okay, I totally understand that. So, it's funny because I ran into somebody the other day who was just like, I've been producing for years and I still don't understand what an envelope does. I still don't understand why these LFOs, I still don't understand why you use certain modulations. Do you have any videos pointing me in that right direction? I'm like, man, he's been producing for years and he still doesn't understand this. And listen, I've been guilty of that too, right? Like, it's like you use these tools and then you sort of gloss over the details about why things work the way they work, right?
Yeah.
And so I think that, maybe another good starting point would be trying to understand the synthesizer from a core level to understand why certain things do other things, right? So trying to understand why a modulation routing exists, trying to understand how this envelope affects, another part of the synthesizer or affects the cutoff filter or something like that. That's really important. Yeah. So maybe you can use a preset like that to like say, all right, well, what is this doing? And then how is it doing that? And then why is it doing that? What effect does that have on the sound?
He must have some good presets then if he doesn't even have to think about that. And that's one of those things too, where it's like, have you ever noticed the more technical you learn of something, the less creative you then at the same time become of that. And then the more creative you try to be with something, the less technical you get. So it's almost like two different skill trees that you have to level up, for lack of a better term, that eventually they kind of coincide a little bit later on. Because he's probably just not even thinking about technicals, envelopes, this and that, because he doesn't need to. He's in the creative mode. He's thinking about music. He's thinking about maybe song arrangement, or how is this going to build up? How am I going to take the listener on a journey to get to this climax of the song? How are we going to come down from that? And so on and so forth. He's not like, man, if only this LFO was unipolar, this would be perfect. You know what I mean? Like it's a whole different kind of thinking.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, that's really a good point. Like I try to focus on that when I'm trying to teach people how to use, sound design, when I'm trying to teach people how to use presets. Yeah. Like, this is what this is for, and this is why you would use that. And there's things that I discover every single day about different, ways to use a synthesizer, or even like exploring or seeing what's out there. You know what I mean? Like, there's always new things to learn. And you made a good point, which is, how do you separate the creative mind from the technical mind? And what I was going to say this is why I actually separate my sound design phase and creation mode that I get into between my, like, here I'm going to make a track kind of mode, which is my songwriting creative, thing that I go through, right? I try to separate those two things out on separate days or separate sessions, whatever it is, right? So I'll say I have 3 hours right now. I'm going to design 10 presets for myself. Right. And I'm going to just that's all I'm going to do. And then another morning I might wake up and say, I'm going to write a track today, and I'm going to use those presets that I made the day before, right?
No, it's smart, yeah.
I'm not going to focus on that, right? And that's just one mindset that I get into, which is kind of separating out that technical stuff between the creative stuff. I also do this is a different topic, but I also do this with like track creation, which is like composing, and then mixing. Because mixing to me is another full-on technical process that I go through, which is not as creative as the one
and
before.
You're going to hear differently too on that. Like if you just finished up a lead, that's probably going to be the loudest thing in the mix. It probably shouldn't be like that. Absolutely. You know what I mean? You're always going to focus on the last thing. But that's a good point you brought up, because I've done that as well. And I've said that it is helpful to separate the sound design from the actual songwriting, because it is kind of two different modes. With a caveat though, because there's some times where if I'm in the middle of a track and I'm using the sounds, like you were saying, like to use the sounds from the previous session, and I'm like, oh, this is close, but I need like a little quick thing. So maybe you'll dial something up quick, which I think also helps doing it separately, because you build up those skills. You have the time to kind of train to learn these sound design techniques. So then once you're in a session, you're like, oh, I need something really quick. Based on that experience, you can do something really, really fast. So I would say I do the same kind of thing.
And this is something that AI can't do for you. I mean, we're still at that point where you've got to do things yourself. You know what I'm saying?
And that's the fun part too. Like I think people always want the end result. I'm like, I kind of like molding a patch and making the song. If it's just like you spit out a song without any effort into it, it somehow, for me at least, doesn't make it feel like it's your own. And then two, getting there is part of the fun as well. That's what makes a song so interesting. It's part of you that went in there, not just your prompt.
Yeah. But where does someone start out? I mean, if they don't have any skills, like how are they supposed to get started on doing this kind of thing? Like, I
think they kind of have to use presets in the beginning.
I agree. I agree. Which is why I said that presets can be a great learning tool.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. If you first, as a beginner, look at a synthesizer that's pretty complicated, you're going to be like, I don't even know what this thing does. I remember the day I looked at Citrus the first time. I'm like, what even is this thing with all these knobs, right? FM synth. I was like, I don't even know what that means. But then you go through some certain sounds and you realize, holy crap, So this thing is capable of doing that. So then that kind of gets you to say, oh, if I practice this thing, I can probably make something similar. And then you can kind of use those patches as you grow. And then as you start understanding it more, you can see the clever little moves the sound designer did. And you're like, oh, I can use the same technique, but in my way to come up with an interesting and unique result. You know what I mean?
For some reason, I think this is especially true with stock synthesizers that come inside of a DAW, because they're not third party. And for some reason, like we don't really, like they're foreign to you when you first download a DAW or first start using it. It's like, I've never used this synthesizer before. You know, I'll take the ones in Ableton, for example, like, you know, like Operator, and there's also a wavetable in there, and there's this new one. Like when Ableton upgraded 12, they added a couple new things. They added this one called Meld, right?
Oh, that's right.
They added this distortion plugin called Roar. And I'll be honest with you, like I had never used the Ableton beta, and I was not aware of what Roar could do until I actually got 12. And then when I loaded it up, I'm like, I don't know what this thing does. Like, I have no idea, right? So I started flipping through the presets of Roar just to see what it could do. And I'm like, all of a sudden I was like, damn, this can do this and this can do this. Oh my God. Like, and then the potential just opened up in my mind. Like, wow, this could really be something that could be useful for further sound design.
So it's kind of necessary. And then if you kind of turn it around and you look at it from the developer's perspective, you say, okay, I have this really cool synthesizer. You as a developer know what it's capable of what it can do, right? Because you developed it, obviously.
Yeah.
So how do you translate the capabilities of something by programming different patches so the audience can then see and the users can look at it and say, wow, this is a really good song. This is really good sounds I can put together with a synthesizer. It's capable of all this. So that's kind of probably challenging for them, because they also have to hire different people to say, hey, use the synthesizer, make these packs, and really make it shine. Because at the end of the day, even though it sucks, a lot of people out there are going to judge your software, your synthesizer, based on the presets that it comes
which
with.
is
like
why I love developers. It's why I love developers. You know, like I like bringing them either on our show or talking to them, because I have a lot of respect for people who can design software. Any software, I don't care what it is. Like if you can design software, I have respect for you.
Absolutely,
and your skill, right? Because it's really difficult to do this. I mean, it's not easy to create an interface that works and to create all this code that runs behind just a simple oscillator. God damn, to make, you know what I'm saying?
And all the problems that they have to find, that there's no solution out there on the internet. They're like, they have to figure so much shit out. Like you think every question's answered, but it's not. There's so many unique problems that they're like, I don't even know where to begin with. And sometimes the problem isn't the actual problem. It's a symptom of the problem. So you have to go deeper in your code. So respect to that. That's insane.
Totally. It's absolutely insane. So when I look at the stuff like that, what Dawson is doing with just creating like these brand new unique synthesizers out of nothing. And I'm like, well, goddamn, like he came up with that idea and he troubleshooted it to the point where it actually works. Like, that's crazy to me. You know what I'm saying?
And then they have to deal with like all the lists of things and software fixes that people run. Like, this is a good software, but I want polyphonic aftertouch only on C#4. And if it doesn't, not buying. It's like, I'm sure they have to deal with stuff like that, which is also difficult. But
so then again, like he puts it out into the world, and then you just assume that people are going to make stuff with it. Like here, you can make, and granted that there's people like me and you who actually do. Like we take these tools and we go, oh yeah, what could we do with this? How can we translate our musical language and understanding into, usable presets or usable something that someone else could use, right? Usable sounds.
Because people will look at that synth and say, this like factory bank doesn't sound good, so therefore the synth is bad. And that's a scary thought for anybody on launch day.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, what do you do? If they're so into that creative mind, they are into the logical mind of coding and designing and all this. How do they even have time or concept to do any of the patches themselves? I kind of wonder that sometimes too. The people that actually develop it, how much can they actually contribute to the creative aspect of it? Yeah,
and it really does challenge you. I mean, if you've never experienced a synthesizer before and you want to try to make something new, like how do you make something that actually sounds good on this thing? I was really challenged recently. I did an entire bank for Atoms, which is a physical modeling synthesizer from Baby Audio.
Oh, okay.
And I had no experience with Atoms before they asked me to create this bank of presets. And I was like, oh, okay. Like I've never used Atoms before. And I was really challenged by this synthesizer because it wasn't even like, like Serum or Vital or Pigments. It was not like that. The architecture was not like that at all. It was completely different. and it had a completely different approach to synthesis. There wasn't even an actual oscillator in the thing. You know what I'm saying?
Wow.
So I was challenged to create this ambient library out of this synthesizer that didn't really, it didn't have that traditional structure that I was used to. So sometimes it forces you to think outside the box and think about, how could I use this differently? Which
and also not second nature too.
Yeah,
you're not
right.
saying you pick up a synth you like and just dial up all the stuff really quick. It kind of forces you to think a little bit more and approach something different to make a different sound at the end of the day.
Yeah, so challenge yourself. Like if you're sitting here listening to this or watching this and you say, I get what they're talking about. But maybe there's tools in your kit where you're just like, I've never really used that before. And maybe you should challenge yourself to try to figure out, how could I use this? How could I use this better? Could I take something that already exists and then use it to my advantage? Because we all know that there's those skeletons in our plug-in closet and they're on your hard drive and they're sitting there and they're like, they're just waiting to be used, right? It's just like you collect tools and you use them, but like a toolbox, you can actually see the damn tools. In your plugin library, you have to open it and you have to look at your list. And that's all you got. You just got a list and you just look at it and you go, okay, here's this, that, and this, that, and sometimes breaking some of those tools out that you don't use very much, that you know what they're capable of, they have potential, maybe you just don't understand them well enough. Maybe it's time to break those things out. Just pull them out one by one. What I'm saying?
And each preset's a manual. Each preset is an instruction manual to realize how to get to this song. And that's so, I think a lot of us, when we're trying to find something or figure something out, we ought to go somewhere else to find the answer when sometimes the answer is right in front of us. It's like that person that loves you. It's in front of you the whole time. And you're like, I don't even see you until it's too late. You know what I mean? That's like the whole, that concept. Yeah, it's the same thing with plugins and presets.
Exactly. There was a point that I wanted to make before, in my last thought was like the company Chase Bliss, they make these pedals and they tell people that we don't really know what they're capable of. You guys do whatever you're going to do with it, right? We make tools that have lots of possibility. And then it's up to the user to just figure out what they're going to do and what kind of music it's going to make. And they're always shocked and surprised about how far people can actually take it. Because you give people a framework and you say, here's what the framework is. Now use it. And then whatever music comes out of that, it becomes, the platform itself becomes like a musical instrument, which I think is actually an amazing concept. And for someone to actually give the world a gift like that, to me, is just like such an amazing thing. Like you have the power to say, here is a tool, make music with it, right? Make sounds with it, do something else that could never be done before.
Oh, for sure.
You know what I'm saying? Like that to me is just it's such an amazing concept, because when you release a piece of music, it's almost like it's finite. It's set in stone. It's like, here's what the music is. You listen to that. That's what it is. Right. But then when you give a tool to make further music with it and you're saying, here's a tool, do whatever you're going to do with it.
That's pretty crazy.
It's pretty crazy, right? It's like, wow. That is something entirely different, It's
like just on a crazy mental level. If you have this tool, whatever it's a pedal, it's a synth, whatever it is. Right. There's a certain amount of parameters that thing comes with. There's a certain amount of values that you can turn each parameter to. So then you think, how many possibilities are even possible just to make the sound design alone? And that's not even someone playing it differently, someone playing maybe in different tempo, someone playing it maybe in a different mood, which is going to change the way you can play the same song 20 times in a row, and they're all going to sound a little bit different. Yeah. And then you put different effects after that. So it's kind of astronomical, the possibilities that they give you. They give you a box of just endless opportunities to create something. It's kind of mind blowing when you think of it in that term.
Really is. It really is. It's not like something simple like an actual instrument, like a guitar. Like, okay, you can come up with different ways to play this guitar, but it's still going to sound like a guitar. It's still going to be a guitar. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Or harmonica or something like it's like a very distinct
something
sound.
Like set. Like, here you go. This is this. But then you have tools that are actually like musical, I don't know, phrase boxes or something like that, or even different things. Like it just opens up a whole world of possibilities. All sides of the spectrum are open.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
To these things. So that's really exciting to me, because if you have a preset and it shows you one side of it, think about how much further you could take it, right? What direction do you want to go?
And all the macros that come with those presets as well, if it supports macros, then that you have a preset that you can use, that there's so many variations and possibilities in between. You can even modulate between. So,
why not?
Yeah,
why not try it and see what's out there? So the point is, we're not crapping on presets. We think presets are really valuable. They can be used as great sound design learning tools. They can also be used to make good music. I mean, we offer the best of what we can do. When I put out a preset pack, I offer the best of what I think this synthesizer can do. Yeah. And I offer it to people to say, here is, like another version of this sound, or here's another starting point for you to make some music with, because these are the presets that I would use when I'm starting music, right?
Yep, so that's a perfect point right there. Yep,
right.
100%.
So I put all my energy into these single moments they're like snapshots, right? And I say, here's what I would start a track with. Now you can start your own track with it. You know what I'm saying? This is why I create presets. And I don't try to showcase the synthesizer in a different way. I'm not even thinking about that. What I'm thinking about is creating the best possible sound in whatever capacity I can, so you can use it in your music, right?
Yeah.
So in that sense, if you have people who you trust, and you have companies who you trust, and or sound designers who you trust, you can use those presets to get yourself going. Now a lot of people say you shouldn't use a preset right out of the box. I actually disagree. You can use a preset right out of the box, because the context in how you use a preset, I think you made this point earlier, the context in how you use that preset is going to be completely different for everybody. Yep, and there's 100%. No way, unless it's a dead, easy to recognize sample, there's no way you're going to be able to tell that this person used a preset or not.
And dude, a good point on that as well is to show the kind of almost the hypocrisy and similarity of the same thing. So for example, right out of the box as an argument, you have to change it, you have to make it your own or whatever. I get that. But at the same time, if you just load up the preset, play it out of the box, this is the sound of this preset, right? And you play it differently. Okay, then tell the same thing to all the guitarists that play the same half stack through the same pedals, right? It's going to be the same authentic sound, but the person playing that guitar is going to be so much different. Like you can have two different artists, they play the same song on the same guitar on the same gear, it's going to sound different. It's the person playing it and what they're playing.
Right, totally. Yeah, I don't know if you remember this, but back in the late 80s, early 90s, there was a pedal called the Metal Zone. And it was it was the Boss Metal Zone.
Nice.
And everyone had one. And I begged my dad.
Oh, is it the black one?
The black one with the orange writing.
Yeah, okay. I know what you're talking about.
I begged my dad to buy one. And I remember looking at him and looking at his face like, how much is it? I'm like, it's $90. And he just sort of rolled his eyes like, oh my God, why do you need that? You know what I'm saying? Because $90 in 1989 was a lot.
It was a lot of money.
You know what I'm saying? It was a lot of money. I was like, Dad, I really need this pedal, right? And I think he bought it for me. And I had the Metal Zone. And the Metal Zone was this, I think now it's almost a meme.
Or they had three of them chained together.
Yeah. So it's a meme, right? It's a meme because it wasn't really a great distortion pedal by today's standards, but it definitely had its own unique character. And everyone who's ever used a Metal Zone can surely attest to that, right? But it was the way in which you use the Metal Zone and the music that came out of it, and that's what mattered. Because in the time period when that's all you had, because the Metal Zone was the heaviest pedal that we could find, especially as kids. We were just young 13, 14-year-olds growing up in the early 90s, this was all we had. We had the goddamn Metal Zone. You know what I'm saying? And when you stomp on that Metal Zone and you scoop those freaking mids and you boost those freaking highs and you put the distortion all the way up to the max, it sounded freaking badass and heavy.
Some say that's where this symbol came from, right? You push it up on a graphic EQ, right? That's how all the EQs are always set.
That was actually Ozzy Osbourne who joined that. So, you know what I'm saying? You kick that, or maybe it was Dio. I think it was actually
I've heard it was Dio's grandma. I don't know how true that is.
Yeah, it was Dio, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, which ironically they both sang for Black Sabbath. But so you hit the freaking Metal Zone and bam, you're in the Metal Zone, bro.
And that's technically a preset, right? Because
it's technically a preset
in a certain way. You know what I mean? There's three knobs.
Thank you for saying that. It's technically it was a preset. And I remember my buddy who I was playing with at the time. He was a freaking shredder, dude. He was he went on to be a professional guitar player, you know what I'm saying, played in a band. They've sold thousands of records. Nice. He's a really accomplished musician. But when he played that freaking Metal Zone back in the day, I remember being like, dude, that's the sound, man.
Yep.
And that's why I wanted it. That's why I wanted the goddamn pedal, because I was like, dude, this is it. This is the pedal. I want to make that sound too. You know what I'm saying? I remember we were so, this is like, it's sort of back in the day kind of talk, but like we were so freaking like just young and didn't have much. I remember like one person had the only amp that I had was this amp called the Can, and it was literally a plastic like gas can with a speaker in the middle. And it was marketed as the Can, and I plugged in it. It had the worst freaking sound, dude. It was so bad.
Oh my God.
I plugged it in. It was the Can. It was like the Can, and dude, you could barely hear it over anything. It was like a 5-watt amp. Literally,
it's kind of, I mean, that's kind of interesting. I've seen one where there's a speaker that was maybe this big, and it was cut into a cigarette box, and there was just like an input jack, and it sounds awful, but I mean.
So, I mean, that was again, the Can was a preset. You know what I'm saying? Like,
it was a preset.
It was a preset. It's
like Beethoven's piano is a damn preset too. Imagine him playing some crazy shit, and then he's like, "Okay, now you try it. You're gonna sound different because hey, he's good and you suck, and that's part of it." I think it's harsh, but it's like any of our favorite artists that we like. We've probably tried to emulate their stuff or get their synth, get their guitar, get whatever it is they use, and then we realize that we can have the same exact sound as they do. But we don't, because it's them and it's us. We sound different. We're different humans, different experiences, different practices.
That to me is a wonderful landing spot for this podcast, because like really we've dispelled the mystery of what presets are. Everything can be a preset. You know what I'm saying? Like you could
maybe you're a preset.
Yeah, maybe. Oh, there you go. Okay, that's another podcast for another day. However, really, I do think that you shouldn't feel like you're doing something like wrong by using a preset. You're actually doing something right. Presets are actually a great starting point for anybody.
I wonder where that comes from. That like almost that guilt, right?
I think
nobody can know this is bass 4.
I think because you and I are both sound designers, and people who are listening to this might actually have some knowledge about sound design. But sound design is not this like mystical art form and some, you know what I'm saying? It's almost like but it is something that is a higher level of understanding, right? So when you say I'm a sound designer, it means that you can use the tools in a way that you can create sounds, right? You can create sounds from scratch.
Sure.
You can start with just simple waveforms. So therefore, someone who's not a sound designer might think, oh, that's a level that I haven't obtained yet, or a level of understanding that I don't know yet.
There is a level of you kind of have to get to that. Like if I told you to modulate the third harmonic of a square wave with the unipolar LFO, you're like, okay, for sure. People are like, what the hell does that mean?
What the hell does that mean, right? What the hell does that mean? So I understand that. However, it's not something that is gatekeeped, right? These are like, you could learn this from a book. You could learn it from online on YouTube. You could learn it anywhere. It's just a matter of you putting the time and the energy into it, because that's how I did it. That's how you did it. Like we took the time and the energy to learn this art form.
It is the time. That's right.
Yeah. So that's where the mystery comes from. And so please, if you're listening to this, at any point, whether it's now or in the future, don't feel like, that, presets are trash. Don't feel like they suck. Just use them thoughtfully and use them with intention. And no matter if it's a stock preset or it's something that you bought third party or it's something that you made yourself, if you use them with the right intention and the right care and consideration, then it doesn't matter if it's a preset or not. It's going to sound the way it's going to sound. And if that's your sound, there you go.
Dude, there's times where I was trying to make a lead for a while, and I was like, and this was actually in a repro, and I was like, I'm trying to make this lead to have this certain sound to it, and I was going through some of the presets, and I found one, and I'm like, oh, this is way better than what I was trying to go for.
Right.
I didn't even think about doing this. I'm like, this is it. That's it. Maybe dial the reverb up or down or whatever you want. Dial the reverb up or down.
That's the sound. Change it a little bit. There you go.
It is what it is, dude. Sometimes 2 saw waves and some reverb sounds fantastic, and that's it.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, noodles and salt. It's all cooking at the end of the day, But it is what it is.
Yeah. All right then.
Well, and I think my question for the viewers out there, I don't know if you want to add another one to this as well, but what is your opinion? Are presets bad? Are they good? Do you use them all the time? And if you're one of the guys that says like, I don't use them, I'm sure at 3 a.m, you're going to be like, oh, what else is out there? Oh, Bass 4 is actually pretty cool, and you're gonna like take it down a little bit and save it. But anyway, long story short, do you use them? Do you not use them? What do you think?
Let us know in the comments.
Any questions for you, Chris? Or
no, I think that's it, man. Like shout out, like give us like sound off. Give us a reason why you think that either presets are either good for the industry or bad for the industry or bad for using or not using. I think it's really helpful for everyone to get their opinion out there. And let us know. Do you guys use use presets? Do you not use presets? Are you a purist? Are you not a purist? Or are you someone who just has the opinion like us that, anything you got, whatever it is, it's all good as long as you make it your own.
That's right.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Let us know. And until next time, use bass 4 on your next track. We'll see you in the next one.
If you're interested in supporting the podcast, please subscribe to the Signs of Life and John Audio channels on YouTube. The link for our channels is down below in the description and in the show notes. For the video version of this show, please subscribe to the Harmonic Horizons YouTube channel to keep up with all the latest episodes. For bonus content, including additional podcast material, head over to the Signs of Life Patreon page. Paid members get access to Beyond the Horizon, our new series of extended conversations with our guests, as well as several other benefits such as early access to all of his videos, exclusive ambient tutorials, over 100 preset packs for various synthesizers, one-on-one coaching for ambient and electronic music, and tons more. If you'd like to support John Audio and the work he does, head over to his YouTube channel and subscribe. You can also check out his Gumroad page for a selection of free and paid preset packs. Finally, he has a Patreon page where subscribers get access to additional content, such as exclusive music, presets for various synths such as Pigments and Diva, specialized courses, and more. Harmonic Horizons is hosted on Buzzsprout and is now available on all major platforms, including Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, Google Podcasts, and all other major podcast directories. If you'd like to reach out to us or would like to be a guest on the show, you can contact us at harmonichorizonspodcast@gmail.com. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you in the next one.